Good. It is more convenient to have a few pieces of paper, you put it in your wallet. Truth is not determined by convenience. You do not locate, identify, and recognize truth using a yardstick called convenience. All through history, gold and silver function successfully as a medium of exchange, function successfully as a measure of value. You had something to sell from Europe, and we had something to sell from Africa. And the value of what we had in Africa and the value of what you had in Europe were faithfully reflected in the measure of value. And so when we ship 1 ton of wheat to you, we would get in exchange so much of what you're giving us. So this money functioned successfully. But money has a third function to perform, and that is to be a store of value. So I work for the whole month, and my salary at the end of the month could I buy a camel. And I got my salary in gold. And I carry it home, and I give it to my dullahin. You must always do that. Give it to your dullahin and tell her, keep it safe. 5 years later, demand and supply remaining constant. When I take out the money, it could still buy the camel. In other words, Sunnah money has faithfully stored its value. Sunnah money has functioned successfully as money. Now let us turn, you can take it down. Now let us turn to what Gog and Magog did. The Quran tells us about Gog and Magog. إِنَّ يَأْجُوجَ وَمَأْجُوجَ مُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. That Gog and Magog commit fasad on earth. Fasad is to corrupt, but it's more than corruption. It is a corruption which destroys. You thief the man's car. Well, all right now. If you thief the man's car, you do what you had to do with it. You park it up in Abercrombie Street now. Police go find it. The man go get back his car. But no. You not only thief the man's car, you get in some cane field and carry and you burn the car down. That is fasad. It is corruption which destroys. And when you corrupt the whole earth, you will destroy the whole earth. And when you corrupt the market, you will destroy the market. Money is the heart of the market. The market, in order to function successfully as a market, must be a free market and a fair market. A free market and a fair market. And so money must function in that market in a manner which is fair and just. But when Gog and Magog are released into the world, and when they take over the market, as they took over when they colonized the rest of non-European humanity. This was the purpose of colonization. It was never the intention of European colonization to take over control of the rest of the world permanently. No. It is only to take control of Africa and take control of China and take control of the non-European world in order to be able to plant some evil seeds and then to back and hide behind a mango tree. While all these fools, by midnight, it had to be midnight, and you have fireworks, and you have a flag going up, and they're proclaiming themselves a free and independent people, while Massa hiding behind a mango tree and he laughing, he belly full. This is one of the lessons that Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, taught us at the Alimi Institute. I am amazed at that man's capacity for understanding. He said, you believe that you are now decolonized. You believe that you are now a free and independent people. And the European colonizer has returned back home. No. You are still in political slavery. You are still in economic slavery. You are still in cultural slavery. And worst of all, you are still in intellectual slavery. These are the words of Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, 1965. So he corrupts the market. And he plants an evil seed. And he progressively and incrementally removes real money, sunnah money, and he replaces it with artificial money. The money with which he replaces it functions as a medium of exchange, yes. So convenient to use paper. But no longer functions as a measure of value. She's a black woman. I know her. I know her very well. And Sheikh Ali Mustafa knows her. She's a black woman. And you'll find her as a domestic servant in every home of South Africa. Even Muslim homes. They can afford 4 black women as servants. Sometimes 6 black women as servants in the home. She's just a black woman. She's paid a salary. And what is used to measure her labor has a tendency to leak. So she's paid the equivalent of $40. And she measures her value in corn, because that's the staple food, corn. All the black people eat corn. It's cheap and it's very valuable, nutritious. And she makes a meal called mealie meal. I tasted, you know. I didn't like it. Mealie meal. Mealie meal. Or mealie meal means corn meal. Borota. Good. I was white in color. Yeah. And so this money is not faithfully representing the value of her labor. The value of labor going down. She could have got a salary which used to give her 40 bags of mealie meal. And then the salary come the equivalent of 30 bags of mealie meal. And then 20 bags of mealie meal. But the price of a computer in the market going up, and the value of her labor going down. But you don't want her to recognize slavery. No. Because the day she recognizes the slavery, she coming out with a cutlass on the road. It's revolution, it's blood. So in order to put a blind before the eyes of the laboring masses, So they wouldn't recognize the slavery with the money which is going down in value. You institute something called minimum wage legislation. So you could put a cover over the pot so it don't boil over. Because if it boil over, you will get another butler. And you don't want another butler. So you have something called minimum wage legislation. So you will not be able to see and recognize the slavery. But it's not only as a measure of value that this money is failing. It is also as a store of value. Number 14, please. Now, I worked for the whole month. And I got my salary in gold. And remember, I could buy a camel? Right. Now they don't want to pay me my salary in gold anymore. They're paying me my salary in paper. And they say, why don't you trust us? You may see what they write down in the paper. In God we trust. So I take the paper. Whole month's salary. Carry it home. I give it to Dolahin. Put it away. 5 years later, I take out the salary. You can't buy a camel anymore. You could only buy a donkey now. Something wrong here. I'm being ripped off. And 5 years later, you can't buy a donkey anymore. You can only buy a goat. Something is terribly wrong here. 5 years later, can't buy a goat anymore, could only buy a chicken. And at the end of the day, when you reach Indonesia and you reach Turkey, you can only buy doubles. Why is it that only a Malcolm X can understand this? Why? Why is it that it takes a black man who never went to Al-Azhar University, who didn't even know the Arabic language, Malcolm, but he can understand this, and the rest of us can't understand it? The money leaking. Well, then Malcolm will ask, where my money gone? Malcolm will ask, who take my money? And then Malcolm will discover, because Allah gave him eyes with which to see, Malcolm will discover that my loss is someone else's gain. It's not just that the money leaking, but it have a wicked man under there catching the money when it leaks. And so as Africa becomes poorer and poorer, he gets richer and richer. That is oppression. And that is what the paper money has done, as it kept on losing its value. Let's take a look at number 'Where's the one with the value of the US dollar? $20. See, you could find, here it is. Remove that. This money leaking. Sunnah money functions successfully as money. But look at this money. The US dollar is the king currency, the international currency. In 1920, up to 1920, 20 US dollars were equivalent to 1 ounce of gold. You had something to sell from Europe, and we had something to sell from Africa. And the value of what we had in Africa and the value of what you had in Europe were faithfully reflected in the measure of value. And so when we ship 1 ton of wheat to you, we would get in exchange so much of what you're giving us. So this money functioned successfully. But money has a third function to perform. Good. It is more convenient to have a few pieces of paper, you put it in your wallet. Truth is not determined by convenience. You do not locate, identify, and run. And that is to be a store of value. So I work for the whole month, and my salary at the end of the month could I buy a camel. And I got my salary in gold. Recognize truth using a yardstick called convenience. All through history, gold and silver function successfully as a medium of exchange. Function successfully as a measure of value.